but I want to go to Nico Harrison for a second because I think he's starting to fall into the category of being known for the wrong reasons.
Well, today, specifically, he's known for saying stupid things. Or maybe being too honest.
Well,
when being real goes wrong, because they asked him, he was talking about, getting rid of Luka, and what he said has people scratching their noggins.
I did know that Luka was important to the fan base. I didn't quite know it to what level. But really, the way we looked at it is, if you're putting a team on the floor that's Kyrie, Clay, PJ, Anthony Davis, and Lively, we feel that's a championship caliber team, and we would have been winning at a high level, and that would have quieted some of the outrage. And so, unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. So it just continued to, go on and on.
That's true. I mean, there's some truth to that. Had they played well and had AD stayed healthy, and they all hadn't gone down the way they did, it wouldn't have stung as bad as it did. But that was one of the biggest meltdowns and crashes any team has seen, especially after the departure of a superstar. But he is basically saying he underestimated Dallas's love for Luka. That's kind of crazy to be that out of touch with your own fan base if you're the GM, right? If anyone's supposed to know, it's you. That's how I feel about it. That's your job.
I think
you're supposed to know that.
I think you see it when there's a great owner or general manager. When they're oblivious, it's even more shocking to me. Like, how do you not know? Like, I'll go to my Mets for a second. When Steve Cohen took over, he's so involved where he's like, all right, fans, what alternate jersey do you like best? Like, he wants to be on the pulse of what the fans are thinking.
It's a combination of things, though, Rich. Here's how I feel about it. And I find this to be true because I'm saying it. It's a mixture of both.
It's true because he said
No, because you want to appease the fans, but you can't let fans dictate anything because they don't know more than you. They really don't.
Fans dictated Sonic the Hedgehog looking different in the movie, and it ended up being $1 billion franchise.
So, but you don't dismiss the fans.
Yeah.
You hear them out, but that doesn't mean you got to do everything they say.
I hear
Yeah,
you.
they're the reason that the stadium's full, the reason the team's making money, the reason you have a job sometimes. The fans are everything. I get it. But they're not the final decision maker. It's like fans who are mad about how the White Lotus ended. It's like, well, guess what, dude? You didn't write it. You don't dictate everything. So it's a combination of both because you're trying to appease and please the fans, but it's not their decision. It's like our show, Rich. Yeah, you guys want us to talk hockey, but guess what? It's our show, and I'm not talking hockey
That's
today.
like two Canadians.
No, but you know what I'm saying?
But there will be
but
people.
There are people that want us to talk some things, and I'm like, well, that's not what we plan on doing today, so I'm sorry. We get the final decision. The fans might have wanted Luka, but he may have really believed that it was in the team's best interest to make that move.
It's a good combination
It was a bad move, but I think it's a little feel of both. And he has to have that feel as GM of what the fans really want, and that's where he misstepped.
It's a feel of both, and you nailed it with that because it is a combination of, all right, I do want to take the fans, or for, like I said, a radio show, a TV show, a podcast, I want to take into consideration what the people that are supporting want to hear, want us to do.
Yeah, but they're not always going to make the smartest decisions, right? They're going to make heartfelt decisions a lot of times, and that's not a great business decision.
Every time there's a managerial opening in baseball, the fans of any franchise start calling for like some retired player to be the new guy. Like,
right.
Insert Hall of Famer that really might not be the most qualified, but they're like, make him the manager.
In other words, fans aren't in complete control, even though they want to be, we want to be sometimes. That's why Nico Harrison's making millions of dollars to make those tough decisions. Did he misread it? Yes, because Luka was an exception. He was an exceptional player, and he was exceptionally loved by the fans where it was a bad move. And he's hearing the flack from it. And for him to admit that, you could say, wow, it's refreshing that he's taken accountability of his naivety there. To not know how much the fans loved him. Like, I knew they loved him. I just underestimated it. But you could also say, man, he sounds like a bonehead because he's supposed to know that.
I mean, that's like requirement one of being a management on a team, knowing what the fan base, have the temperature of the room.
But here's the thought that goes with it. This guy can make the greatest moves moving forward, he could eventually win a championship. He may, and probably will forever be known as the guy who made this terrible trade. The guy who let Luka go.
No doubt. I mean,
Because-
not even a little bit. Forever, Nico Harrison could go on to be the GM or front office, or, he worked for Nike for a long time before he entered the NBA.
Yeah, you can't take
world,
anything
like-
away from his success and his resume. He's not there because he's a swell fella. He earned his way there, but he'll forever be remembered for this move.
Yeah.
And that's what we're getting at right now. The bad reputation one gets for one thing. The greatest example, and I'll lead it off and kick it off, besides Nico Harrison, again, could win a championship, but always be remembered as the guy that let Luka go.
Wait, Nico Harrison, you mean, the GM that traded Luka?
They had
Oh,
a guy,
yeah.
the guy like, fire Luka, fire Nico, all that stuff, that guy. Unfortunately, and if you look at his career stats, you're like, man, he was a way better player than I thought. Bill Buckner is the classic example of what I'm talking about, because when you look at his stats and you realize the kind of player he was and the kind of guy he was a gritty ball player with solid numbers. This is off the top of my dome. I bet you he's close to 300 home runs, 287 lifetime. He was a great Cub, a great player, great first baseman, forever known for that one error. And it didn't even lose the series. It changed the series, but it didn't lose the series.
And just for the record, the Red Sox were winning Game 7, 3-0 in the sixth
Dude,
inning.
he'll
So it's,
never be remembered for that stellar, solid career that he had. And that's the sad part about it.
Know what he's
because it
remembered
was
for?
such a big moment. I get it.
He's remembered for gets by Buckner, rounding third is night, Mets win.
So that one thing that isn't accurate but truly defines your career. That's what we're getting at. What other examples come to mind? 877-99 on Fox. And if you're playing along at home, at Covino and Rich. I'm going to look up Buckner's numbers.
I could think of a ton. Dan Byer will not like this answer, being a Seahawks guy, but we've talked about this before. Brian Bosworth was one of the coolest dudes, but you bring up Boz.
Sweetest flat top,
and
too.
90% of the time his name is in conversation is because someone's talking about Bo Jackson running over him.
Every time.
And it's
You can't have the conversation without that.
You could say, well, the angle, he didn't have the right angle. It doesn't matter. It's how people think of Brian Bosworth.
By the way, I was close. Bill Buckner, career average 289.
Ooh.
174 career home runs, but he played 22 years of awesome baseball and awesome defensive baseball at first base. 22 years in the big leagues, and it comes down to one moment that people never forgot. And he was forgiven before it was too late, a la Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And, they eventually won. But
He
still,
caught a baby. He caught a baby.
He caught a
baby out of a burning building.
But again, a long stellar career. That one moment defines him, unfortunately.
I think Rich wants me to comment. I will not comment and participate in the slander of one Brian Bosworth, who just did not have leverage at the goal
He did
line
not.
against
You're
Bo
right.
Jackson.
That is true. Angle.
That's the problem. So I will not participate in this slander.
All right, can we all agree that Jim Joyce, you wouldn't even know this umpire's name had he not messed up Galarraga's perfect game?
Yes.
This guy umpired his whole life, probably a reputable guy.
And he
Probably
cried about it and apologized.
I'd imagine Jim Joyce even called postseason games an illustrious career for what he did. But, Jim Joyce, the guy that effed up the perfect game? I guess so.
And then it was the next day that Armando Galarraga handed out the lineup card, and now I look back and be like, what a sinister move by the Tigers. Because remember, Joyce got emotional at that point. Like, we thought it was like a goodwill gesture, and now I look back and like, damn.
Diabolical.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what kind of move was that?
I got one as a guy that I thought he played on a bunch of teams, and an all-star. I bet you remember having his Team USA card. Robin Ventura, great player, great postseason player.
Nice fella, too.
But you say Robin Ventura, you picture Nolan Ryan. I'm giving him a knuckle sandwich, hitting him in the head over and over and over.
That's such a great answer because it's so unfair. It was so out of the character of Robin Ventura to even do such a thing. He was such a slick player, such a great White Sox. He was great with the Yankees still.
Here with the Mets.
And, just a solid career. And we always remember him getting nuggies
For a
from
play,
Nolan Ryan.
he didn't even want to participate in. If
Exactly.
you watch the documentary Facing Nolan,
It's really unfortunate.
about Nolan Ryan, it was so reluctant. You notice Ventura hesitates at first because there was, inter-squad beef going on, and the dugout vibe was, if you get hit, you're charging the pitcher. And Robin Ventura's like, Nolan Ryan? Like, he didn't want to do it.
And Ryan, a big, strong,
Texan.
man-strength Texan sort of guy. Nolan Ryan, just not that type of player. I don't think he played with that sort of fury and fire. He was just like a smooth player. He played 16 years in the big leagues. Career batting average, 267, lower than I thought. But a great player, good player. Known for getting punched in the head by Nolan Ryan forever. Forever. That's the truth. So this is our version of F1 GOAT. You know, you could be the greatest guy in the world. You could have worked at every charity event. You could have helped little children every time you saw them. You could be great with old people, but you F1 GOAT. You're forever that guy.
And if you don't know that example is, it's like an old joke where, a guy describes all these great things.
You think there's someone out there that doesn't know the F1 GOAT reference?
Maybe.
But please explain.
I think people get it.
No, I mean, explain.
But I don't know. I mean, you said it so matter of fact. I mean, we know the joking reference that, you could do a million things. You F1 GOAT, and you're the GOAT effer.
For the rest of your life. That's what you're known for.
Yeah.
Rich, you talked about the baseball example with Robin Ventura. How about a guy in the NBA who gets posterized? And that's all they're pretty much remembered for.
Oh,
like, he wasn't a big star in the league, but think of Chris Dudley. He played in almost 900 games.
Without a doubt.
What's the one game you remember?
The one game is, for me, Shaq throwing him, wrapping his legs around them, and then tossing him. And then Dudley being like, hey! he gives the, lamest,
happened in 1999. He pushed him to the ground.
Hey! That's such a good one, man. Yeah, had a stellar career, right? Think about it. You make it to the NBA.
And Dudley throws the ball at him.
It's an accomplishment in itself, though, right? You're one of the few. You're one of the 1%, less than that make it. Your childhood dream comes true. You're the pride of your family, the pride of your hometown, the pride of your alma mater. You make it to the NBA, and you have a great career, and you're a New York Knick, and you play at the Garden and everything. Your last name's Dudley. That kind of sucks. But you're still up there with the big boys. Shaq posterizes you, wraps his legs around you, and tosses you into the stands like a little baby boy. And that's forever what you're remembered by.
Your forever highlight is on the receiving end of being punked.
That's the worst. That's got to sting. And by the way, we say that respectfully.
Yeah.
We're fans. So, yeah, you did it. You made it. But unfortunately, these moments define you. And it's not our fault, Blame pop culture. I don't know why people hang on to this stuff.
If you want to chime in with your example, 877-99 on Fox. Shout out to our pal Jay Stu from the Gottlieb Show. Him and I were the guy. We were talking about this in the lobby, and he came up with a great example, and it's one of Covino's childhood heroes. This guy was like the king of children's programming. Made you laugh for decades. But you touch yourself in a movie theater one time. Pee Wee Herman was the best example of.
Rich, if he was going to do that, where was the appropriate place to do it? Remember, this is pre-Pornhub.
Oh, so
when
you
had it at your fingertips.
So you're saying Pee Wee really went the right path?
I'm not saying he was right in doing that. I'm saying that he's not the only guy that did it. He was just the only guy that did it that worked in children's programming that was winning Emmy Awards.
I guess so. But
heard any jokes lately?
But the late great Pee Wee Herman's a great example of decades of comedy and humor. But
you know what happens? It often gets misconstrued. These moments turn into a bad game of telephone, and people always assume that he did something else, like something far worse than that. And I'm like, oh yeah, he shouldn't be proud of it, but yeah, he was
by today's standards,
by
today's standards,
exactly, yeah.
And everyone's on a OnlyFans. I think Pee Wee's okay.